Over my small time on YouTube and my even smaller time solo role-playing, there has become one creator that constantly surprises me, amazes me in equal measure for creating new games that are different and just have so many just wonderful tools within that game. And that is Alex T from Blackoath Entertainment. So a few months ago, he sent me Riftbreakers 2nd Edition with the caveat that you are not going to enjoy this game. It's what he said to me. And I sat down, had an interview with him. I'll link the interview at the end where he's sort of like going, "Oh, I'm sorry for sending you this. I know this isn't going to be your sort of thing." And we then had a full-on conversation about MMORPGs and my love of Warcraft, his love of Warcraft, and how Riftbreakers 2nd Edition, well, the 1st edition, technically is Warcraft. Dungeons and Dragons 4th edition. It's got Hexcrawl, it's got Western Marches, it's a D100 roll under. It's got the crafting system from the Witcher computer game. And he was like, "You're not going to like this." And I was like, "Everything you've just described to me is my perfect game." And I've been playing it now for a few weeks. And oh boy, this is sweet as. Oh, it is just. I know. This is really hard because I've been really loving Choir of Flesh, and now I'm like, that's an okay game. It's not. It's an absolutely amazing game. This is just amazing in a completely different way. As I always do, I'll start off showing you where you can pick this up from. All the stuff that you can buy, actually what comes with it is just incredible, and then you can just buy more stuff, and then we'll go page by page, go through the book, and I'm going to convince you why you should spend all of your money on this, because not only is it a solo game, it's a co-op game, but it can actually be a lazy games master's game. So if you want to play World of Warcraft with your mate in, let's say, not say a better world than World of Warcraft, because I haven't played that for years, so I don't really know where it's gone now, but I do have very fond memories of when it first came out. But let me just take you over to Drive-Thru RPG. So here we have the page for Riftbreakers 2nd Edition. Now, I have not played 1st Edition, so I do not know anything about 1st Edition, how it works, what the changes or improvements, or not as good things may be. I am just talking about 2nd Edition here. So it's a D100 rules light system. It's available in PDF, softback, hardback cover, premium, standard, however you're going to pick it. If you do pick this up, please do consider using my affiliate link. Full caveat, Alex sent me this, knowing that I was going to loathe it. He's going to be like, no, there's going to be, it's not even a switcheroo really, because I once we were discussing this, I was like, if this plays how you're telling me it's going to play, then this is utterly amazing. And there's even a wonderful card mechanic that I'll come on to as well. It's 340 pages. It's a D100 roll under system. Meaningful character progression, deep crafting system. Only uses 3 different things and 3 different skills, which is good. A hexcrawl world that you're going to go and discover through random quests and hexes. You've got, let's say, all the tools for solo play, cooperative, lazy games master, and it works perfectly if you want to do that full Western Marches campaign setting by yourself or with a couple of friends. And I say it just mechanically, once you get into combat, it's going to be a bit slow for the first couple of combats, getting used to the card system, or, well, I'm playing it with cards. You might play it a different way, but all the rules are there if you don't want to buy the cards, which we'll come on to. But if you are going to pick this up, please do consider using my affiliate link. Say everything generated on that. Thank you for everyone that uses it. I just put back into the channel for something else. As I said, Alex sent me this. I haven't paid for this. But what I will be doing is using the money to go and buy an offset print. And I want the limited edition of Choir of Flesh as well. So everything is, it all comes from the same pool. So here we have the Riftbreakers 2nd Edition cover. RPG of Perilous Rift and Delving. Actually, when we get into the art style in this book, it does what I really love, which I'm going to talk about once we get onto the first couple of bits of art in here. So a table of contents is going to welcome stranger. It's going to take you through appearing on the planet or world for the new time and how it works. We're then going to get through character creation. The rules for the game. Say it's a nice system, D100, nice and easy. Still got advantage, disadvantage in here. Some mastery skill checks, usage dice, timers, things like that. We're then going to get, once we're like 100 pages in, we're going to get to exploring Kaethor, which is the sort of area of the world that the players or player find themselves in. I've then got sort of 70, so what's that, 8 pages of the crafting rules, a load of gear and loot that you can create, or specific tables to roll, almost 100 pages of beasts. There's about 90, I think 92, 93 different beasts, almost one per page in there. And then from pages 313 to 321, that's the starting level. So everyone is going to start in the same bit. That's going to sort of tease you through and teach you how to play the game. So, in essence, welcome to second edition. After years of feedback and tweaking, this new edition redefines the gameplay from first edition. Means nothing to me. So I just love the way this is. So here's the art style that I love. Nearly every piece of art in this book is black and white with one additional colour. I think this looks absolutely stunning. You know, it may be a yellow, maybe a red, something like that. Say it's all this black and white with, say in this one, we've got this blue colour in here. Say this is designed to be, this is the only book you're going to need. It's got your games mastery in, it's got your bestiary in here, it's the players rules, it's got everything you're going to need all in this, other than maybe I might convince you to go and buy a load of cards as well. So when you do get the PDF copy, you are going to get a hex crawl map included in there as well. So as you're moving around, you're going to be going through the different areas of the hex crawl map. You're going to start, well, you start here in the labyrinth, and then you're going to move across to Helos, which is this safe place city that then you're going to go and investigate. And then we've got the different areas from the Crystal Plains here, the Lake Moonlight, Mad Blue Marshes, I think it's Erin Mist Forest and the Violent Sands. Each one's got different speeds, different encounter tables, random encounters, different sort of quests and adventure. Once we get into combat, we've got different zones we're going to work on because it's an MMORPG homage. You've got different areas, and depending on the range will determine how close they are. Well, it just determines what sort of powers or heart abilities that you're going to have. Your campaign is all written down in here. The companions you're going to get, yes, you can get people that are going to, work alongside you. You've got 4 different types of companions, and they will affect you in different ways. You've got bags for keeping hold of your gears and equipment. Your heart abilities, these are your special abilities you're going to get, and you're going to have different sort of setups so that you're going to have when you go into different combats, which we'll talk about once we get into the combat section. And these are the cards which I'm going to show you once we get there. So let's just get back into the game. So the dice, it mainly uses your standard dice. You haven't got any of those weird dice from Dungeon Crawl Classics. So you're going to need everything from a D4 up to a D20. So it's a simple D100 roll under skill. So if you've got a skill that's got 60 in it, you're going to take your D100. You're going to look to get 60 or less. Okay. Combat is quite simple once you get your head round the sort of loadouts and stuff, which we'll talk about. But most of the game, you are sort of leveling up your character, gaining new skills, which come through skill books. You will be testing skills, and when you succeed, you are going to get better as time goes on. But you're going to be exploring and discovering this new land that you've just appeared in after stepping out the labyrinth, okay? Player characters, so we're going to have some attributes, some ability pools, some ether, some health. Okay, ability pools basically is going to start at 20. This is the amount of abilities and powers that you can learn to start with. Ether is your magical ability. This is going to allow you to use your powers, your heart abilities. Health, quite straightforward, how many hit points you're going to take. Luck determines how lucky you are. Obviously, there are going to be certain times when you can roll for your luck. You've got parry, so if you want to sort of parry and deflect attacks, and then you've got protection, which is the amount of armor, which may also reduce spells and things like that, so it just depends on what type of armory you're wearing. This is a skill-based game, and we've got a variety of skills in here, from things like agility, animal handling, blade weapons, bludgeoning, cooking, sailing. All skills tend to start at 0 and they max out around about 80. They can go higher with magical equipment, and you're going to be picking your skills to start with, which is quite cool because there's no sort of character classes. You can create the character you want. There'll be certain weapons that you may have proficiency in, which if you haven't got the right proficiency for the weapon, then you will be at disadvantage using that weapon. Okay, so hearts abilities. Hearts are your special abilities, okay, which we're going to come on to very, very quickly, and you will pick 2 different hearts. This is like an area, so you might have the death heart or the time heart, and all those abilities will be relating to that. And what you need to do is you need to pick a loadout. So what you do is you can see this loadout table here. So you will pick 12 abilities for your loadout. So this is your combat essence from your powers that you've got. I think that's the probably simplest way of doing it. You can have up to 3 of the same card or power, so it's more likely to come up, because once you get into combat, you're going to be rolling the d12 and you're going to get 5 of those abilities. Or if you're feeling a little bit flush and you want to play it in a better way, you can go and download and buy all the cards for all the different abilities on DriveThruRPG as well. And then you just get some sleeves. So if you've got an old Magic the Gathering game, you've got a load of your common cards, just put them in the sleeve, and then, you know, to make it firm, then print these off, put the paper in there, and then just play it with cards. And then you're just shuffling cards. It's got that wonderful sort of tactile element to it. Only if you're floating. If you don't have the spare funds to that, you can just use it through the loadout sheets. That's absolutely fine for here. Okay, so let's actually we go straight into the arcane heart. So I'd say that there are, I think, is it 12 or 14 different hearts that you're going to get to pick from. So the arcane heart, okay, heart powers, just think of it that way. Those who assimilate the arcane heart are masters of raw, unfiltered magical energy, wielding the power of the ether to manipulate the world around them with devastating precision and versatility. Now we've got some combat abilities, and other of the hearts will have non-combat abilities. Okay, so this one does as well. So the non-combat abilities, you do them outside combat. Combat abilities, inside combat. Now, remember I said that you've got an ether of 10, so they will have a cost. So Arcane Blast, for argument's sake, has got a cost of 4, range of 0 to 2. So let's have a quick look at this range grid here, which is this one. So this is where you're going to be, and 0 to 2 means in your area, that area, or there. Absolutely fine. So if there are any of these 3 areas, then you can use this. So what does that heart do? So it's a standard action. You've got a standard action, a move action, and a what's it called? It's a response action, something like it's like a reflex action. So you're reacting. Reaction, I think it's called. Now I think about it. And some of those, well, obviously you'll be reacting to the players, but obviously this happens to the NPC. This happens on your turn. So it's a defense. So you're going to use your agility skill in here, and it's going to do a d8 plus 2 arcane damage to a single target. And then it's got a little descriptor here in italics. You fire a bolt of pure ether, shimmering with power. And these are the different ones. So you may have 3 of those arcane blast cards in your deck, and you will just randomly deal out 5, and you can discard one at the end of your turn, or if you use one, you shuffle it back into the deck, and then you shuffle the deck up and go. If you're not having the deck, you just roll a d12, and you roll a d12 5 times. If you get a number that you've got before already got, you just go the number down below. So that will just help you generate your hand. It works so much better with, I'm not saying necessarily so much better with cards. I use cards because Alex was kind enough to send me the cards, so it plays really well with cards. I do think if you've got the money, go and get the cards. If you haven't, I'm sure it will work perfectly brilliantly without it, if that makes sense, because you won't know any different. We've then got the Arrow Heart, which offers mastery over precision, agility, tactical range, combat. Bastion Heart, which is all about protection. Blade Heart, which is about agility, deadly, melee abilities. The Death Heart, favourite, necrotic energies and things like that. Healing the undead. Devastation Heart, which is raw power and aggression. Elemental Heart, I just imagine it's going to be things like fire, water, and air. The Might Heart, which is all about strength, and restoration is healing. The Ritual Heart is into knowledge, intrinsic magical practices, specialising in the creation of powerful and long-lasting effects through rituals in here. We've got the Shadow Heart, which is stealth and subterfuge, and then Time Heart, which sort of slows down time, and you can get a few extra actions and things like that. So it's up to you as to which ones you go. It does give you, initially, tells you to pick 2 from 4, but after you've been playing it for a while, you're probably going to want to just sort of go down to your own sort of hearts and pick where you want to go. Good news is, as you gain more experience and find additional things in the world and complete quests, you are going to get more hearts and more powers and more abilities. So to create your character, you're going to be a standard human or appearance, or go on the unusual appearance here. So you can roll for your head and your body and colour. They don't really have any game effects. It just means you're going to look slightly different. You're going to write down your ability pool of 20. That's how many abilities you've got. Your ether initially is 10. Your health is 2d6 plus 15. Your luck is 0. Write down your name. You're going to look down, realise you are completely start bollock naked. So you're going to obtain some tunic, some heavy clothing, requires a proficiency if you're going to wear it. You obtain your weapon of your choice. If it's a ranged weapon, you can also attain a quiver and some a d8 usage dice of arrows or bolts. Come on to usage dice in a second. We're going to get a couple of potions for minor healing. You're then going to pick a weapon skill to get a 60 and a different skill at 40. We're then going to get some non-weapon skills at 40, 3 at 30, 4 at 15, 4 at 10, and these modifiers can not be applied to the same skills, and you gain proficiency with a weapon and armor of your choice. It then says choose 2 crystallized hearts from the following options: the arcane, might, restoration, or shadow. It's up to you. I have to say, after a couple of characters, I was like, do you know what? I'm just going to create my own, really, and go where I want. It's really up to you from there. You're going to get 6 heart essences to spend to unlock hearts abilities from the 2 hearts that you've chosen, and then you're going to pick an achievement path. Achievement paths are they're in game. It's very much MMORPG. These are paths that certain things you do will give you additional experience, and it tends to be additional skills or powers and things like that. You'll then go to page 313. This is mostly hyperlinked as well in the content, I should have said, to do the starting adventure and go from there. The rest of the book's now going to help us sort of bridge that gap into the 313. So here's the achievement heart. So let's say we're going to pick the path of slaughter. So we've got 10 different things we can achieve, from bloodthirsty initiate all the way up to warlord. So as we do things, and let's say combat veteran, participate in 30 combat encounters, reward gain plus 10 to your endurance skill. So these are just going to give you different things that sort of aim at to sort of to gain experience, gain more power a little bit quicker. So you've got the path of slaughter, it's killing things. Path of shadows, so that's going to give you sort of sneaking around and access to a smoke bomb. Path of the arcane, are you going to go down more casting, magical elements? Or path of the explorer, are you going to be more interested in investigating and exploring the land? And then finally, we've got the path of diplomat. As you can imagine, this is all about command skills, charismatic leader, inspiring NPCs to join you. How can you get better? Every time you roll doubles, be it a pass or fail of the skill, you're going to get to increase your skill. Okay, you're going to put a check next to it. And at the end of the session, you're going to roll a d100. If you roll higher than your skill, you can add a d4 to it. If you equal to or lower than your skill, you're just going to increase it by 1. So at least it's always going to go up. Looking at you, Call of Cthulhu. There is nothing more annoying than ticking the box and then it's still not going up. Standard difficulty to succeed at most things, you're looking at rolling your skill equal to or less. However, if it's something simple, so let's say you are going to climb a cliff face and it's not too much of a gradient, you've got a rope, you've got claws, you've got someone guiding you, you may decide that that's plus 20 to the skill. However, you're going to climb the hill at the mountain and it's raining, it's in the dark, you're barefooted and you've got an eye patch on because you're blinded temporarily in one eyesight. It might be minus 30 to your skill. Opposed skill checks, very simple. You make the roll. Whoever succeeds and roll the highest wins. Nice and simple as that. You can help each other out. Criticals and fumbles. So if you ever roll a double and succeed, so let's say you've got a skill of 50 and you roll a 33, 22, 11, you're potentially going to do a critical, which normally will do double damage. Or if you fail and you roll a double, you will fumble. You can roll advantage and disadvantage. So if it is favourable, you're switching the dice. So if you rolled a 73, that would become a 37. And vice versa. If it's disadvantage and you rolled a 37, that would become a 73. Okay. Usage dice. I didn't know much about this until I discovered Alex's games. I don't think he created them. But for example, if you're using a bow, it says you will have a D8 arrows or bolts in your quiver. So you'll just put a 8 out on your character sheet. And every time you make a shot with your bow, you'll roll it, and if you roll a 3 all the way up to 8, it doesn't matter. Okay, if you roll a 1 or a 2, you swap that dice, the D8 for a D6, and you can just see the chart here from a D20 all the way down to a D4. So as you can imagine, once you get down to that D4, the 1 and 2, you're 50-50 whether you're going to run out of arrows, equipment, healing potions, whatever else it may be. Okay, so engaging in combat that's the hardest thing you're going to learn, because you're going to need to decide on your loadout to start with. So you're going to take your heart abilities, and you're going to have up to 3 different loadouts. You're going to print out the loadout sheet here, or you're going to have your cards, and you're going to need to print off additional cards, because you can have up to 3 different copies of the cards as well. And you will sort of set it for whether you want sort of a range combat, a melee combat, or a magic combat, or maybe a combination of the 3. So when you get into combat, decide which loadout you're going to use, take that loadout sheet, roll that D12, I say it's 5 times to just get your initial hand of cards that you can use. And say you've got all the hand management stuff. Players can use abilities from their hand during their turn, paying the ether cost they're required. At the end of their turn, they can discard any number of abilities from their hand. Discarded cards become available once again in their loadout. Abilities are immediately discarded after use. Keep that in mind. The ether replenishes at the start of your turn. So you're going to get 10 ether at the start of your turn. You can use however much you want, and then you're just going to come back and get another 10 at your turn again. I think we've discussed combat zones. To say on your turn you can attack, where you've got your primary action, you've got your reaction. Here we go, standard actions, reactions, and moves. So you can move from one zone to the next. You can do a reaction, so that's reacting to something that the games master or you as the games master, the NPCs are going to do. And you're going to get a standard action, which is normally attack or cast a spell or use one of your hearts, something along those lines. We've got some forms of defense in here, so you can basically make parry rolls. Armor is very important, so as you take damage, your armor potentially is going to take damage as well, so you will need to fix that over time. But more importantly, your armor is going to reduce the amount of damage you're going to take. If you're wearing multiple pieces of armor, it says here, only the highest protection must be used. So, if you've got leather armor and then you've got some sort of chain over the top of it, you're only going to use the one. You don't actually combine both. We've got rules for engaging, disengaging, so you can use your action to sort of disengage and not give them that attack of opportunity. 3 different types of dual wielding, so all the rules here, so whether you're going to fight with a single weapon in one hand and a shield, and use shield bash or parry, 2 actual two-handed weapons or one handed weapon in each hand. Rules are in here. We've got swapping weapons during combat, fleeing in here, different damage types. There are a ton of different damage that you can give to the creatures. More importantly, they're going to give to you. And this ranges from things like acid, arcane, bludgeoning, cold, fire, lightning, radiant damage. Some creatures will be vulnerable to something or resistance. They may take double damage or half damage. You've got that fun little game of learning and discovering the damage types you can actually do to creatures. Okay, most monsters die at 0. As a player, you're going to get, once you go to 0 health, you're going to get a D4 plus 1 rounds to be brought back to life. If you do die, you actually, like an MMORPG, thinking Warcraft, you then go back to the starting town. All your equipment stays with your hero, and you've basically got to go out and then re-find your equipment. There'll be some basic equipment out that's going to be given you to in the town to be able to go out with. Different powers and abilities are going to have different conditions, things like concealed, cursed. And so basically, if that happens to any of the characters, or you do it to one of the creatures, or the creatures do it to you, this is the section you're going to want to find. So just remember page 76. And this, if you suddenly become asleep, so a creature immediately falls prone, so you need to check what the prone does as well over there. But any attack that hits the creature is a critical strike. That's nasty. This condition persists out of combat, but is a natural sleep, so receiving damage of any sort or sleeping too long will wake them up. Okay. Now, you can get companions. Companions are going to help you on your quest or investigation, whatever you choose to heroically do. And you're also going to have to basically put your companion in your loadout. They're going to take up one of your slots, and it's going to cost you 8 ether to get your companion out. But when you roll a companion, you're going to roll it completely from scratch. We've got 4 different types of companions: a protector, a controller, executioner, or mender. And these will have completely different skills. This is the thing that always amazes me about Alex. You go, oh, well, we could have a companion. Well, you could. Or you could have four different ones with different abilities. And when they're in combat, they're going to roll a d10. And that will determine the action that they do. You don't get to pick because they've got their own mind. And they've got their own agenda of things that they will do. So just rolling d10s, you don't get a huge amount of say in what they do. But they are, they're going to add to some of your skills, and they're going to give you a sort of passive ability that's going to help you in combat. But when it comes to an action, so this one's not too bad. So if you've got this mender here and you roll a 3, grants the target ally a plus d4 protection until their next turn. So it's going to give you a little bit of extra armor on there. They're also going to have a one ability that when you roll them, so you're going to do this loadout ability, which they're going to come with. Again, it's going to have sort of an ether cost in there. They're going to have some passive traits. They're going to have they will advance as well. So as they go up, you can increase their skills and abilities. You can randomly roll their names if you want to as well. Now, you can play this game with or without a games master. I've been running this solo, like I think, every one of Blackoath Entertainment games that I've played has been a solo game so far, but Alex does give the rules and all the stuff for if you want to play it co-op or if you want to play it with a games master, because you just have a games master run alongside. But if you want to solo this because you want to be able to get it to the table a lot more and learn games, this will just teach you how to do it. I'm not going to sort of break it down too much, but this will be like answering yes or questions. It's got the oracle, is it a simple yes with a complication, no, or no with a complication, percentage chance, where you can either use d20s or d100 systems. It gives you an idea of d6 of the type of complication you're going to get on here. So it's like, have they spotted me? So we could go yes, but a complication takes place. Something that appears to be in the way of another. So they could have spotted me, but there may be a distraction that someone else just called the guard across to talk to them, if that makes sense. So it's not necessarily going to mean that with that complication that it's always going to go against you. So with surprise events, when a situation outcome is uncertain or when you simply need to know what happened next, you can roll a D8 on here, and it'll just give you whether it's physical, environmental, knowledge, forbidden. It makes sense as you do it, and it sort of just explains. So if you've got the knowledge one, this type of event relates to the information the characters have or need to acquire from your quest. They may discover something crucial about a faction. It may be they learn something important from events of years ago to explain their current situations. Details on updating story arcs because of everything that's going on in the world behind. We've got some action and theme tables. So this is just a random action, so you might have a challenge in here, and it may be, if you roll 39, the theme may be a faction that's challenging them. Interpreting an event or an action. So is anything interesting going on? You've got some yes or no, some significant changes here, some random actions, resolutions. The NPCs they're not automatically going to dislike you. They may be you're going to roll a d10, they may be anything from hostile to curious all the way up to helpful as well. Then we've got some character reactions, emotional, how old they are, what gender are they, what is the NPC doing at the time, what is their individual motivation where they're going to do it, and just a D100 table of descriptors for the NPCs. And that is only the first third of the book. Now, the next section of the book is exploring Kaethor itself. So this time, let's just explain it briefly. I think is probably the easiest way to do it. So this is a fantasy world where several years ago a load of rifts appeared and monsters, creatures, alien type things were appearing through these rifts, and so humanity basically quickly went to Kaethor, which is a large walled city that has protected them. It keeps so they don't really know what's out there anymore. That they sort of keep themselves to themselves. And then about 50 years ago, a man appeared out of the labyrinth, which I showed you on the map. Let's just do that again, I think. So here is Kaethor, and here's the labyrinth. So 50 years ago, a man appeared and he headed here. So this is pretty much what everybody knows. They know where the labyrinth is. This is what they know. And the player characters are going to be going out, or just you as an individual or co-op, going out discovering everything, trying to seal the rifts, trying to stop what's going on. The characters are heroic. So in the present day, Kaethor is still a land torn by the terrible monsters brought upon the rifts, but it's much better positioned than it was a couple of decades ago. Brave individuals, because there's lots of people come through the labyrinth, have started rebuilding settlements all across the peninsula, and with frequent strangers and regular Kaethorian adventures, patrols and expeditions, the monster's threat is somewhat under control. The lands around Kaethor haven't seen any serious incident in many years, and the Ring of Peace is slowly but surely expanding. So I say you've got that little area around the town that feels very safe, with some sort of settlements. There's a few other little settlements in and around, but all the different areas have got different threats. So I say we've got the Arnmist Forest in here, the Bone Spire Peaks, the Crystal Plains, the Blood Blue Marshes, which is down the bottom here, the Violent Sands, then the labyrinth itself. It's then going to take you through Kaethor, which is divided into different sections like Merchants Quarter, Strangers Districts, the Craftsman's, the Squalor Tower, City Factions, and within the factions, it's going to have their motivations, what the Order of Nine are looking to do. We've got a load of random urban encounter tables, what's going to happen. We've got some sort of quest and missions that you're going to get. Travelling across, depending on the area, will determine how many hexes you can travel across per day. So it will go from 3 down to 1, but I say that just depends on which way you're going. You're going to then roll a d8 to make sure you get the right direction, because if you fail your navigation check, you could end up somewhere completely different. Then in each of the areas when we're exploring, so the Arnmist Forest here, we've got noteworthy encounters, and we've got a d20 of those, and then from there we've got also a d20 of interesting finds. Now this is going to be repeated. Oh, sorry, we've got the combat encounters as well. This is going to be repeated as well for the Bone Spire Peaks, for the 3 different tables, Crystal Mines, the Kaethor itself, Mudblue Marsh, the Violet Stands. I said I don't want to sort of spoil any of this. So that's all your random encounters and things that you're going to discover as you're travelling around. But why would you travel around? Questing. Questing and levelling up with the questing guild is why you'd want to do this. Fame, money, and everything that comes with fame and money. Now, when you're rolling a quest, you will roll the quest, which we're going to come on to in a second, but every day you're going to roll d4 plus 2 numbers of quests, and they won't reset until 72 hours. But each quest you're going to roll a d10, and that'll give you 200 of the gold in this world. You might get 3 skill books to get your skills up, a random formula or blueprint, a random magic item, or you could get a companion. So you're going to sort of pick what quest you're going to go on. And as your reputation goes up, you're going to gain ranks from Initiate all the way up to High Warden. And that's from 0 reputation all the way up to once you get 80 or more. Completing one quest will get you +1 reputation. Failing it will give you -2. And as you go up, you're going to get better rewards. So as you go into Journeyman, you're going to get a room at the guild's facility. So you're not going to be paying all the costs for food and things like that. Once you get to Vanguard and 40, you're going to have access to the library, champion. You're actually going to get to be able to pick a quest as opposed to randomly rolling the quests. Now, what type of quests can we have? We can have escort quests, delivery, monster hunt, patrol, or rift closure. As you can imagine, rift closure are the hardest, okay? Escort makes sense. You're just escorting someone somewhere. Delivery, taking something somewhere, and it sort of gives you details of how it's going to roll. Monster hunting, the type of monster you're going to hunt. Patrolling, going checking out an area and having a look. Rift closure, which is the hardest one, because you're going to turn up at a rift and try and not only close the rift, you're going to have to kill a rift boss. So you might not want to pick that for a few levels in here. Then we've got some exploration sheets and stuff that's going to help you sort of write it all down. And then I'm just going to sort of go through some of this stuff that I don't want to show, which is like some of the specific rifts and quests and areas. So go past the landmarks and we'll get on to crafting. As you can see, there's lots of other stuff to discover in here. So one thing Alex does, well, there's lots of things Alex does. He loves his random tables. It's why I love playing his games, because I don't want to have to think about it too much if I'm doing a solo sort of co-op game. He always has all the tools, and you just know that once you start to run out of options, there'll be another book coming along. You know, look at like Caernarfonus. It's like, oh, well, we've run out of dungeons. Oh, okay, well, here's another 3 different mastery books and things like that. Now, crafting and gathering, or gathering and crafting, I should say. Now, one thing you've got to do is pay attention to this. If you miss this little box down at the bottom, you're going to miss all of the crafting things, because first time I was like, how on earth are we crafting here? And it's because we've got this little symbol is ore, this little symbol is alchemical, and this little symbol is monster. That's it, 3 different types. It's not hideous like other games. You know, look at that with The Witcher, the TTRPG, or Land of Eam, where you've got thousands of options. It can be nice to have options. This is simple, keeps it easy. Now, if you want to do crafting, you can do crafting from alchemical, armor smithing, weapon smithing, making potions, making weapons, or making and fixing your armor. Now, each time you successfully craft something for the first time, you're going to get +1 in that crafting skill, which is really good. Because it also means over time you will get better and crafting gets easier. Because it should do, you know, if you are succeeding at something, it should become easier. Now, when we're looking at mithril and minerals, we've got a percentage chance of finding them. Again, this reminds me of that Warcraft bit where you're walking around, you know, like you're in the middle of a quest going somewhere, and then someone will spot some ore on the mountain. Next thing you know, ting, 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 as you're being beaten to death as they're taking some ore. It's very much that sort of feel to it, because you're randomly rolling. Oh yeah, there's some more here, and you know, you just get. It's not too bad when you're doing it on your own. It's not as bad as Warcraft. So when you're making items and sort of loadout sheets and stuff like that, we've got different rarities, so common, uncommon, rare, and epic. Yeah, I think you've got the Warcraft colours as well in your head. So depending on the skill, will determine, you know, how easy it is, whether it's common, uncommon, or rare. You can make masterwork weapons and different armour. You can actually take existing weapons and make them better as well. But obviously one of the other components you're going to need to do is, because armour depletes over time as you take damage, you're going to need to fix your armour. You can cook in this as well, and as you're cooking, you can make better food, and you know, so you can combine leaves and things like that, which has got that. It's Skyrim, isn't it, where you could it's not as bad as Skyrim because you know what you're doing, but you can find items, put them together, and you know, make crystallized pollen and things like that, which is going to help increase your luck skill. From an encumbrance point of view, and it keeps it nice and simple. You've got 10 slots, so again, very MMORPG, nothing to do with weight. You've got main hand, offhand weapon, 9 slots if you go with a 2-handed weapon. You've got a belt, a helm, armor, pair of gloves, pair of boots, a pendant or trinket, 2 rings. Very much Warcraft. You're going to want to have containers, so you're going to have your spatial bag and your backpack, which is going to give you another 20 slots, deciding on the size of the spatial bag, whether it's a minor, standard, or large. We've got it here. We'll determine whether you've got 25, 50, or 100 slots. So again, depending on what you craft, depending on what you can afford. This is the strange bit, is you've got the sort of loadout actions here for the weapons that appear at this section, which is it's probably the bit that I probably dislike the most. I would have liked I haven't seen one, so whether Alex has got one and I've missed it, an actual crib sheet of all the costs would be quite handy to have. But if you're not going to be using the heart abilities, here we are. So if you can do a weapon strike or one-handed or range or whatever, the details are here for the weapons and the damage you're going to do. I've then got weapons that you can buy and costs. If not, you can actually craft them and make them yourselves in here. So, you know, because obviously there are shops in this game, but most of the time you're going to be trying to get your common and uncommon sort of goods and rarity together to sort of craft it. It is the easiest way to do it, because you're not reliant on having money, because only, I think there was 1 and 2 out of the 20 would give you the chance to actually sort of get the 300 gold as you're going along. We then can, obviously, you can generate and make magic items. So we've got some random tables for randomly generated magic items, the amulets and the properties that are going to go in there for belts, boots, gloves, and rings, as well as magical weapons, the sort of magical damage type that you're going to get, and any sort of monster types you're going to get. Now you can have some magical peculiarities, not quite curses, but they're a little bit, you know, they're peculiarities, not curses. We've got a random loot table here as well, which is going to give you some alchemical equipment or which you can actually, sorry, you can break it down for crafting. We've got different monster loot tables, so as you kill things, assuming you survive long enough, you've got a D100 table to just determine what loot you're going to get. And then finally, we've got some epic magic items as well. Sentient weapons. I've talked about this on a previous video. I'm a terrible games master when it comes to giving my players sentient swords or anything like that. I give them and then I just forget. I don't make them very interesting. Alex has got some really good rules for sort of naming, nouning, and sort of the sentient personality and how to use it in the game, which is really, really useful. Because, say, I'm awful at it. It's that and smells. I'm always terrible at describing smells when it comes to an area. But I think, you know, it's a weakness that I'm trying to work on. The rest of the book now, before we then get into the adventure, is the 90-odd sort of creatures that are in here. And they're broken down by type. So we've got aberration, astral, beast, construct, elemental, humanoid, plant and undead, and then they're going to have different types of attack. Will they be range or melee? And that's going to again determine on the combat zones where they're going to attack from. Each of the monster stats is going to break down to the number of the actions, which is the number of times they can roll on their action. When a monster attacks, you don't like with the companion, you don't know what they're going to do. We're going to roll for that. I'll show you that once we get to one. Agility is how hard they get out of the way. It's going to add to your ability to the difficulty, let's say, to hit them. Athletics is going to determine their strength and prowess. Combat, how easy they can hit you. Endurance is their physical endurance and resilience. Evasion, how hard they are to dodge. The health should be how long is it, how far they move, their parry ability, perception, any sort of protection, and then tenacity, which is their mental and spiritual fortitude and the ability to resist spells, etc. So we've got different monster traits as well, things they're going to do, like anti-magic abilities, pack, melee in here. Now, once you're trying to close the rift, you will uncover a rift lord, okay? And we've got, depending on where the rift is, whether it's a frozen wasteland, infinite desert, lava field, etc., will add some other special abilities to their attacks. More importantly, you're going to roll your rift lord stat, random table, to determine the creature you're going to get. If it's multiples, you only pick one, but then we're going to add things like do additional psychic damage. We're going to double its health. They're always going to have one action per party member, and we're going to be rolling a D8 instead of a D6. And so we're going to get some extra things that I'm just going to sort of skip on by to make them harder. So let's just pick on the bog snake. Let's go with the bog snake. These large serpents blend perfectly in their inhabitants, posing as an ever-present threat to those who dare cross the glades and marshes of Kaethor. As you can see, one action per player. That's what this little pawn means. This is agility, how many health per player, etc. So obviously if they are one of the rift creatures, they're going to get even more powerful than this because it's random, the creature that's going to be there, which is quite cool. But on its action, it's going to roll d6, and then that's going to randomly determine, I'm not going to spoil any of these, so I'm just going to move on. It's going to determine what they do, and each of the creatures will then have things like vicious and traits, be it vicious, relentless, and melee. Penetrating's a horrible one because that is just going to reduce your protection in your armor. So if it's got 10 in there, it's just going to do additional, you're not going to be able to take off the 10 damage that you've got. So we've got things like fire elemental, flame golems. I think it was 93 different creatures in here. Now, I would have loved some art on this, but I've had several conversations with Alex, and art is the big thing that kills him. It does cost money, but the good thing is, because we got these bits in italics here, so let's look at this ocean wraith here, a phantom-like creature that haunts the coastal region and an open sea, able to phase through objects and disappear into water. That gives you probably enough to know exactly what it's going to look like. A shadow assassin, a stealthy creature with the appearance of humanoid shadow that can easily be mistaken for one. A fact that is used to advantage when assaulting its prey using its razor-sharp claws. Kind of, you can see in your mind exactly what that's going to be and look like, isn't it? So we've got some tidal drakes and tidal trolls in here as well. Underwater dragons, whirlwind wraith, and then finally the winter worm. And then we are I'm not going to show you this. I'm going to skip through, and then we've got the table of, index table here. So those last 3 or 4 pages that is the starting adventure, the sort of gets you going. So that's that. Create your character, go to 313, and play from there. Now, how do I conclude this? This is, every now and again, I keep thinking I should go and pick up 4th edition. Well, I've got 4th edition Dungeons and Dragons. I've got the PDF, so I bought a nice bundle a while back. I don't want to play it. I absolutely love this. And I keep saying this with Alex's games, which is kind of embarrassing. Well, not embarrassing in that way, but I say I haven't managed to find one that that's missed with me, if that makes sense. There's little layout issues that you're going to get, which, again, I think is personal to everyone, because, you just, if you miss out the section on the weapons, you go, hold on, how do I actually attack with a weapon? How much ether is that going to cost me? But beyond that, there really isn't much that I can find to grumble about this, because you're starting in a choose your own adventure area. You can pick where you sort of go from the labyrinth through there. So it eases you into the game, the adventure. Now, the hardest bit is understanding your loadout. Now, that is, I think, easier with the cards, because you physically got cards, and you're going to have to print off 3 copies of each of the cards, because you can have that amount of actions. I haven't played it with the drawing, the writing down your different loadouts, because that may or may not confuse me, just trying to remember which one it is. I think I'd probably just put a marker next to the abilities that I've got on that round. But once you've done, I'd say once you're sort of 3 or 4 combats in, it actually starts to make sense. And then as you start gaining a little bit more of abilities, and you start getting a few new hearts and different abilities, things like that, you realise actually crafting is quite important, cooking's quite important too. Maybe I didn't need the sailing ability. Thought I might go to the sea. Didn't go to the sea. Don't worry about it. I'm not saying don't take sailing, because it may pop up. Be a bit selective. Do not start. We're going, this is a good idea. Well, we're just going to, let's head out and, there's a mission here to go and take out one of these rifts. Let's go and close a rift. Don't do that to start with. Do not do that to start with, because you're going to die. Well, the good thing is, if you do die, it doesn't matter. You just go back to the town and you haven't got any equipment, and you start again with rubbish equipment, which, it's a learning curve. Getting back to your dead body and trying to get your equipment back while it's protected by it. But you are just building, like you do with all these solo games. You're building out your own world. And if you do getting tired of a character, the good thing is, because the strangers keep turning up at the labyrinth, as it talks about, you can just keep bringing new people in. The companions, so it's like when I went through it, I was really surprised that I was expecting a companion, and not 4 different types of companions that come with its own unique ability, then it's got its own style and things it's going to do during combat. It's very, very, really nice to see this. I say that the solo rules are easy. I've been soloing now for, it was less than 12 months, and I'm, do I make mistakes? Yes, of course I make mistakes, but does it matter? No. But there are enough tables and random tables in here just to make this consistently really, really interesting and a fun world. I'm glad I found the hex crawl, because initially I was like, okay, there's no hex in the book, and that's because it's on the PDFs. So I do these experiments so you don't have to. But yeah, make sure you don't just get the physical copy of the book. Get the PDFs, because there's also player versions and non-player versions of the maps as well. So if you do want to play this and run this as a games master for players, you can actually just give them a non-hex crawl with no sort of names on it and things like that. It's I say, 2 grumbles. The 2 grumbles, and they are really rubbish, is the fact that those actions are sort of in the back. And I kind of want them a little bit further up, and the lack of art. But if that is my grumble, the fact that this is already, could you imagine how expensive this book would be if it was full of the art, because Alex always, he never scrimps on art. It's always really good, and he works with really good. It's like the art in the book is amazing. When I say art, I mean art for the monsters, but that's like 93, 94 additional commissions. It would have made the book a good 80, 90 pounds as opposed to the sort of 44, 45 pounds that it is. Now, do I think this is good value for money? Now, I've got to be careful because obviously I didn't pay for this and I didn't pay for the cards. But value for money for the book, very good value for money. You are going to spend hours playing this, and even when you get bored of your character, you can just pick up a new character, bring it into the same existing world, because the world is just going to keep moving. And then if you do want to come back to your other character, or actually pair them up at a later stage, you can. You know, I've got the two guys now that are sort of running around together, kind of helping each other, because they've got their own little goals and things that they want to be achieving. But that's kind of sort of going on. The first guy I created, he's just not interested. He's never coming back. He's just sat drinking. We'll go with that. The cards, I think, make a huge difference. Well, they do for me, because it's a lot more tactile. I love board game. I love TTRPG board gaming. Say that ability, you know, I've spent years playing things like Magic the Gathering stuff. That ability to just shuffle the cards and then drawing out 5 cards to see what your hand's going to be is a lot more interesting to me. But I do appreciate this is going to come at a elevated cost. But the good thing is, you can just buy the hearts as you go along. So you don't need to buy the whole pack. You know, if you decide that you only want to do the Death Heart and the Arrow Heart, just buy those two. You know, you don't have to necessarily stick with the ones that the game tells you to. I'm going to leave it there. This is Alex. Thank you again for sending it me. I'm really interested to see where this can go from here, because it's such a wonderful contained little book. I say little book, it's, you know, like 320 odd pages. But I'm really interested to see what you can do from here. You know, is it going to be more companions? You know, it's. I should mention, and I have mentioned this already, the fact that the crafting system is really good. Say 3 different types of crafting material. And obviously you've got, you know, from common, uncommon, the crafting types that you're going to find. But it's so streamlined and easy. So Riftbreakers 2nd edition, I'm going to say go and get this. If you are a solo player, if you're into, you know, Warcraft, MMORPGs, Dungeons and Dragons 4th edition, you want those sort of defined roles in that sort of combat things. But also, you know, one of the big criticisms of 4th edition is there isn't any sort of aspect outside of combat. This has got crafting in there. It's got all the social encounters and everything else. So, yeah, absolutely amazing. Thank you again for sending me this wonderful game. I'm going to have to do a top 10 solo games at some stage. Now I'm getting more and more games in there. But it might just end up being a top 10 Blackoath Entertainment games. But gonna leave it there. If you've enjoyed this video, like, share, subscribe to the channel, and I'll see you soon. Thank you for watching.